It appears TCU is done in the transfer portal, but they shouldn't be. They should go get edge rusher David Bailey from Stanford.
You are Locked On Horned Frogs, your daily podcast on the TCU Horned Frogs. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm your host, Steven Simcox. We're brought to you today by FanDuel. March Madness coming up this weekend, and FanDuel is going to be a part of that. I'll tell you later on about some deals that they have going on. Also, we'll get to TCU men's basketball in the transfer portal. An announcement yesterday that David Punch is going to be sticking around. Baseball series, it was supposed to be Thursday, Friday, Saturday because they're playing BYU. It's going to actually be Thursday, Saturday. Doubleheader on Thursday, then a game on Saturday as well. So we'll talk about that. But we start today with TCU football news. TCU football was pretty active in the opening portal window. We are not currently in a transfer portal window. That's going to open up shortly after spring practice. However, there is a difference maker in the portal right now that I think TCU needs to pursue heavily. David Bailey from Stanford. TCU played David Bailey this year, had 2 tackles and a forced fumble in the season opener. Overall, 31 tackles, 6 sacks, and 12 tackles for loss on the season for David Bailey. He is a stand-up edge rusher, exactly what TCU needs and wants as a stud linebacker, somebody who can rush the passer from that stand-up edge rusher position and do it well. The thing I liked when I watched him, sometimes you see somebody with 6 or 7 sacks on the season. An important thing to do when you see that, go to their game log, watch their, season tape. Who are they doing this against? Who are they getting sacks against? A few years ago, O'Shawn Mathis for TCU had a nice year. He ends up transferring to Nebraska before his final season. That happened when Gary Patterson left and Sonny Dykes came in. He had 6 sacks in his final season at TCU. But if you looked closer at his season, 4 of those sacks were against Texas Tech and Kansas, which at the time were 2 of the worst teams in the league. And at the time were 2 of the worst, blocking teams, offensive line teams. You know what I mean? They didn't have good O-lines. He feasted on bad competition. Okay. So you look at the numbers and you're like, oh man, this dude had an incredible season. Well, he was a solid player, but he was not this huge difference maker. Bailey had multiple sacks against Syracuse, which was a team that struggled last year, but also made plays against NC State, made plays against SMU, made plays against Clemson. So through the teeth of the ACC schedule, this was a dude who week to week was able to wreak havoc, get to the passer, and seemed to have a knack for forcing fumbles. Was really good at timing those hits, reaching, that arm out there and poking the ball away. Did that 3 or 4 times last season. Ended up total having 5 forced fumbles as an outside linebacker. And you might say, well, hey, I did a series last month leading into spring practice where I went position by position. And I said, hey, at defensive tackle, this is what we need. At offensive line, I think you need to go pursue an interior offensive lineman and a tackle. At stud linebacker, I felt like they were in pretty good shape, and I still believe that. I think Devin Deal is going to be really good. I think, Zach Chapman, whether he's out wide or he's more in a defensive end role, is going to be a difference maker and a good player. Jonathan Bax, I believe he's ready to step up and make things happen. Chad Woodfork is a true freshman. I believe he's a player that can make a difference. But hear me. Stud linebacker and really just pass rushers. Okay? Let's just group it into pass rushers. You can never have enough pass rushers. You are very rarely going to hear a coach say, man, I feel so good about our depth at the pass rushing position. And just to be real about it, this is a dude who could step in right away and start. The idea of Devin Deal and David Bailey on either side of the formation, making plays happen. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. There is no better equalizer in football than rushing the passer. We talk about great quarterbacks, great offenses, great passing attacks. What's the best way to slow them down? Hit the QB. Make him rush his throws. Make him start seeing ghosts and not trusting his eyes. Throw the timing off with his wide receivers. Create negative plays and put teams in 2nd and 19 and 3rd and 15. That is a surefire way to derail an offense. Now, I imagine this is going to be a pretty costly endeavor, right? And the reason he's in the portal, if you're like, why is this guy suddenly in the portal? Well, Troy Taylor left at Stanford. He decided, you know what? This is a job I don't want to be a part of anymore. So they have a new coach incoming. And there's now a window where these guys can hit the portal. So Bailey's taking advantage of that. I know it's going to be a pretty hefty check. One, because it's a position where there's just not a lot of dudes like this that are available. In the trenches, O-line, D-line, edge rushers, they command attention. They command resources. I've gotten messages from a few different parents of offense and defensive linemen at TCU currently that were like, yeah, it's crazy out there. Like if my son wanted to go test the market, he would be well compensated because everybody's looking for players like this. The other reason I know why is because Texas Tech's involved. And this is not a slight on Tech. I think it's really cool what they're doing. I mean, they're spending a lot of money in the portal. That is how they've chosen to build this roster that they have currently. And they're going and getting impact players. And he visited Texas Tech. So if they're involved, you know it means NIL is going to be a huge part of this. But Andy Avalos is a good defensive coach. He was able to get some guys integrated in that defense quickly last year. And Bailey's a player that already understands what needs to happen to be effective in these situations. And I've talked about this all offseason. This defense is about creating favorable one-on-one matchups for your pass rushers. There's a lot of different things that they're trying to do, but that's a huge key cog in it, because if you're able to do that, then it helps all three levels of the defense. So yeah, David Bailey, take a swing. And it's not because you need depth there. It's not because you need a starter. It's just because it gives your team a chance to get better. And I think raise the ceiling of what you can do. And this is a big year for TCU football. They showed some proof of concept in the second half of the season. They showed an ability to have some consistency. Yes, the schedule got easier. Yes, they played teams that they were more favorably matched up with. But honestly, and I know like there's no moral victories in college football. And they have really gotten the better of Baylor for a long time. But that was a Baylor team that finished the season really strongly. And they went on the road and they were right there in that game. So I think that, along with the wins, proves that there was a nice turnaround in the second half of the year. Now you got to build on it. It doesn't mean that much if you don't build on it moving forward, at least for this current coaching staff. And this is not a planned thing. This is unexpected portal entry. But you have an opportunity to at least go make contact and start laying the groundwork with a guy that's an immediate impact player. And you can't have enough, you just simply can't have enough depth at edge rusher. And it makes your roster situation a little more complicated. Chris Kleiman was talking about this yesterday, and I'll probably do something on this Friday. Teams have to get down to 105 players now, which means for the first time really ever, we're going to see big-time cut downs in the roster after spring ball. So that's a huge headache for all coaches. And adding a player that you didn't expect, because until, a week ago, he wasn't somebody that was going to be in the portal, that complicates things to a certain extent. But this is not like taking a flyer on a dude who you hope works out, or, all right, we need somebody who can be in the two deep at outside linebacker and just make sure if there's, an injury or something unexpected comes up, we have peace of mind that they can make plays. This is a real deal impact player. And what I like about it is he's a guy that did it throughout the course of a season consistently against good competition. It wasn't just, he had 4 sacks against, an FCS opponent and Syracuse, and that was 70% of his production for the year. He made plays against big-time opponents. David Bailey, go make a move. We're transfer portal heavy today. We're going to move on to basketball next. David Punch sticking around. That's good news for TCU. What does that mean for the type of roster that they can build around him and other young players moving forward? We'll discuss that next round. Locked on Horned Frogs, your team every day. I'm probably going to need a 5-hour energy later today. Had soccer practice. I didn't have soccer practice. My daughter had soccer practice. We got T-ball going on right now too with my son. We're running around a lot of different places. I'm staying up late, trying to do podcast prep, trying to do my day job. It's difficult. We're all busy. We get it. 5-hour energy. Go to 5hourenergy.com. You can order online right now, or you can just stop by your local convenience store, local grocery store, and get 5-hour energy as well. If you've been staying up late watching the tournament, make sure you have the energy for the next day. It's longer days outside. Why don't you grab a tropical burst to help you get through the extra daylight? Whether you're at a game or traveling, 5-hour energy is easy to grab and keeps you feeling refreshed. Head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack and get delivered straight to your door. Need one now? Grab a 5-hour energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store. They're everywhere. Stock up today and stay energized. 5-hour energy at the store. Also now online. Build your own 12-pack or 24-pack at 5hourenergy.com. Get delivered straight to your door. Stock up and save. Okay, moving on to TCU men's basketball. So, some news, if you missed it, just kind of summarize the offseason and the transfer portal so far. Frankie Collins in the portal. Vashawn Alette in the portal. Isaiah Manning in the portal. Frankie Collins was a surprise. And I would say it's a loss because he was their best player for the first month of the season. It's hard to quantify him not being there and what it's going to look like next year because you didn't get a full picture of what he can do over the course of a year, but surprising loss. Now, they replaced Frankie with Brock Harding, junior point guard coming over from Iowa, who played a lot in his first 2 seasons there. Ernest Uday. This was a surprise yesterday. He's in the transfer portal. Great athlete, good defensive player, never really developed his offensive game like you would like to see from a big man, but that's a big piece of this puzzle they have to replace now. So as of right now, your guys coming back, Micah Robinson, Jace Posey, you got Caden Edwards incoming as a freshman. A couple guys that redshirted, RJ Young and Ashton Simmons, both guards. Simmons a point guard, Young more of a combo guard to expect for next year. And some news from Nick Giramonte from SI. And he has a basketball podcast, TCU Basketball Podcast, covers TCU basketball really well. David Punch tells me he will return to TCU next season. Started 27 of 32 games as a true freshman. And David showed some really good things. I mean, you talk about Ernest being an athlete and being a rim runner. I think David embodies that even more. As far as being a rim protector and playing defense, I feel like that's an area where he can grow next year, and hopefully he's able to step up and do more in that area next season. And the other piece of the puzzle for David, he shot a few threes last year and had some limited success. Can he develop a mid-range jump shot or step outside and shoot from deep? How long has it been? And it's crazy to say this because modern basketball right now, I mean, it's all about positionless play, right? Like the idea of your big man plodding down the floor, putting 2 feet in the paint and going to work in the post. That's in the past for the most part. A lot of teams are at least having these guys step out 15 to 20 feet. Who was the last big man for TCU that could do that? I guess you could put Emmanuel Miller in that category. I mean, he was a stretch 4, but he wasn't a center. I mean, at that 5 position, Vlad, right? Like it has to be Vlad. But if David can add that dimension to his game, the ceiling for him goes way up. If he has some versatility, is able to put the ball on the floor, shoot from beyond the lane, that would be a huge pick me up for this team. Similar with Jace Posey. Now, I think Jace can carve himself out a role even without being a great scorer. Because he does a lot of different things on the floor that maybe don't show up in the stat sheet, but that are just good. He gives you good minutes. I think they're counting more on punch to be a scorer when it's all said and done. And so that's the next step for him. But that's good news. I mean, he's the key to this roster rebuild. And you need to put guys around him that can play, but he's a huge part of this. As far as guys that they're targeting, this also comes from Nick. Jaden Pierre from Providence was on the list. Last season, 12 points, 3 assists, 2 rebounds. Okay, here's the thing about Jaden Pierre. He shot 39% from the floor. From 3-point range, he was a 54% shooter from beyond the arc in limited action as a freshman, but the last 2 years, 36 and 34%. This, to me, looks like another volume score. And I just don't understand. And I say this knowing I was a bigger Vashon Alette fan than most this season. But it's like, if you're going to go after a dude like that, why not just keep Alette on your roster? And I don't know the ins and outs. I understand that sometimes this is coaches saying in exit interviews like, hey, I'm not sure this is gelling. Or it could have just been completely Vashon looking at the situation and saying, I don't think this is a good fit for me. But if there's one thing that TCU, in my mind, needs to do this offseason, and now with Uday leaving, you also have to get like a big man who can play. Find more efficient scorers. Go get shooters. I understand they're hard to find. I know that they're probably expensive because it's a commodity now in basketball. But if you look at modern hoops, you have to space the floor. You have to have guys that can shoot. You have to have dudes that can catch and shoot when your guards are able to, dribble, penetrate, and break down a defense. I can hit open shots. They didn't have that last year. And they struggle in other areas too. They struggle defensively. But the biggest problem, whether it was the starting games or in the middle, they would just go through these long scoring droughts. And it made them susceptible to getting beat by anyone. So in my mind, like, that's priority number one. Go find some dudes who can score efficiently. And I just don't think Jaden Pierre fits that. Now, another name that was mentioned was Jaden Henley from UNLV, which I think makes more sense. 12 points a game, 43% shooter. from the floor. Now, playing at UNLV, I mean, you got to kind of extract that a little bit. And it's been sort of hit or miss with TCU and taking guys from Group of Five conference who can hoop. I'm like, man, you got to go find more efficient scores and a big man as well. When we come back, TCU baseball going to play a doubleheader today because of weather. We'll talk about that next here on Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Thank you to our friends at FanDuel. They have been a long time loyal sponsor here of the Locked On Network. We appreciate them. FanDuel right now, they always have great deals going on. New customers, $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. Again, that's $200 in bonus bets to use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories. Whatever it is, you can do that if your first $5 bet hits. Stay in the action. It's easy and fast. FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. Visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. FanDuel, it's where the game starts.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the bracket breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
Okay, so Jamie Plunkett had this yesterday. TCU baseball conference series against BYU. They're coming off a midweek win over UTSA. Walk-off winner there, 5-4. Good ball game. And they're playing BYU Thursday, Friday, Saturday because BYU does not play on Sundays. And the schedule is getting even a little more interesting here. As because of weather, I mean, if you've been in the Metroplex this week, you know there's been severe weather threats every day. Rain expected on Friday. So they're playing a doubleheader today. First game at 3, next game shortly after, and then game on Saturday. And that'll be your 3-game series. The pitching matchups are your starting rotation: Cole Klecker, Tommy Lepore, Cademan Parker. And they didn't say in that order, but I assume it's that order. So they're sort of rolling the dice in game 1. They've been searching for a third starter. Trevor Baumler, freshman, didn't work out. They made the move to Noah Franco. Last few weeks, they struggled there as well. So Cole had a good start against DBU a couple weeks ago in the midweek. Hung around. But I think this is, hey, can Cole get through the lineup one time around, and then we'll go to the bullpen. But we'll be curious to see how Kirk manages the bullpen today. Usually he likes to pair Braden with his Friday night guy, which in this case would be tonight. But you're also playing an afternoon game, so a lot of moving parts. And it's challenging for Kirk. And he said this after the UTSA game. I was watching the post-game press conference. He was like, yeah, it's difficult. Like moving just to that Thursday, Friday, Saturday in itself is tough because you got to move bullpen days around and make sure everybody's available. So they were very bullpen heavy on Tuesday. Baumler threw 1 inning, and then they were like, all right, we got to get you out so we can save you for the weekend. But they managed that pretty well. Now, it gets even more complicated today because it's sort of all hands on deck when you're playing 18 innings in one day. I guess, though, one positive for the bullpen, if you don't throw like 40 pitches today and you're coming out of the pen, there's a decent chance you'll be available for Saturday because you do have that built-in off day on Friday. So just something to watch. I'm excited to, get my kids home from school and sit down and watch some afternoon baseball because I love day baseball, and I'm glad that, they're playing on Thursday afternoon. But I know it's challenging for the coaching staff and the players to do that. So need to win another series, keep building that Big 12 record. I did see D1 put out their first Field of 64 projection, and they had TCU as a 2 seed in the Austin region, paired up there with Texas. So that would, of course, be interesting because of the slosh factor. We'll cover the doubleheader tomorrow on tomorrow's show. Also, we'll get into basketball and football as we always do. It's Locked On Horned Frogs, your team every day. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're free and available wherever you get your podcast.